Hello, we are RPA Prime, and today we are going to show you how you can configure and connect to a MySQL database using UiPath Studio. If you would like to get tips and tricks from the RPA space, then subscribe to our channel. Okay, let's get started. Before we are going to install the prerequisites for configuring a MySQL server on our local machine, we need to make sure that you have installed the Microsoft Visual C++ 2019 redistributable pack by following this link. You can find it in the description. Okay, if you already done that, let's proceed by downloading the MSI installer for the MySQL installer. Once you've downloaded the installer, it should look like this. Let's hit Custom, because we would like to install several components for our configuration, and then hit Next. First of all, we need to install our server. Please go for MySQL Server 5.7 because you have to work with 32-bit servers. So let's select x86. Then, let's go to the visualization tool, that is the Workbench. We can go for 8.0 and select the latest one. Here we can use the 64-bit version. Let's then navigate to our connectors and install the ODBC 80.22 again on 32-bit. Then let's hit Next. We have the components ready to install. And then let's hit Execute. This may take a while, so be patient. Once the installation is completed, you should see the following status on the screen. Let's hit Next. And now we need to configure our server. Hit Next again. We can leave it like this because this is the default port. If this port is already being used, you can change it to a different one. But in this case, we are going to keep it as it is. I'm going to hit Next. Let's configure our root password. So remember, our username is going to be root, and now we're going to configure a password. Okay, I'm going to hit Next. And I'm going to leave it like standard system account. And then hit Next. And then Execute. This can take a while. After the configuration has been applied, you should have the following status on the screen. Let's hit Finish. Then Next, and let's see how the Workbench looks like. Now let's set up our local connection. I'm going to hit this plus sign. I'm going to give a connection name. I will leave it as 127.0.0.1. We'll keep the port like I set up previously. The username is going to be root. And now I'm going to insert my password, the password that I've set before, and then hit Test Connection. You should have this message on your screen as well. Hit OK. And then OK. Now let's connect to our local host by clicking on it. And let's perform a very simple command: show databases. Hit Execute. And now we have our information displayed on the screen, which means that we have successfully connected to our database. Now let's proceed by installing the ODBC connector. So I'm going to go for Start Administrative Tools. Go for 32-bit. And you should already have this configured under 32/64-bit. If you don't have, you can just hit Add and perform the configuration here. Remember, if you change the port, you should also change the port here. So the connection has been successful. Now we need to add a system DNS. Let me remove it and add it once again for you. So first, to configure the user DNS, it should be like this, and the system DNS. Let's hit Add. Search for MySQL ODBC 8.0 ANSI driver. Hit Finish. Here, we're going to put a name: localhost, MySQL, leave the port like this, the username is going to be root. And the password is the one that you've set it up previously. Let's hit Test. Connection is successful. Hit OK. And then again, OK. And now let's get into Studio and configure our automation. Create a basic project, just a normal process. I already done it. I already have the sequence into my process. And now first thing that we need to do is to go on Manage Packages. Click on All Packages. Search for Database. Should find UiPath Database Activities. Hit Install, and then Save. You can install the latest version. Once you have it installed, you should be able to see it under UiPath Database Activities under the Dependency section. Now, let's go into Activity tab and search for Database. We have the Connect option. Let's hit Connect and then configure connection. It will be much easier if we are going to go into Connection Wizard. Go Other. Hit .NET Framework Data Provider for ODBC. Hit OK. And now, let's refresh it first. And we should be able to see our local host MySQL that we have previously configured in the system DNS. I'm going to click that and then put my username and password. And then I'm going to hit Test Connection. The connection is successful. This means that we can proceed with the following step. Now, what we want to do is to extract some information from the database. In order to prove that the connection has been successfully established, let's first create a new variable that will store our work, database connection. I'm going to hit Ctrl K and then I'm going to enter the name database connection. Hit Enter. Now my variable has been created. The variable type is going to be database connection. Then I am going to perform a query. I can go to execute query activity. I already have the connection. So I'm going to put database connection here. And then I'm going to type my query. So I'm just going to go for the one that I previously did in my local database. I'm going to go Show Databases. And then, I'm going to store my result into a data table or go databases_dt. Hit Enter. Now all I want to do is to write using the write range activity. I'm going to write this into a file. I'm going to use the workbook activity. Remember, if you are going to use the Excel activity, you also need to use an Excel application scope. But, because it's easier and faster, we're going to use the workbook this time. I'm going to give a name to my file. I'm going to say databases.xlsx. And then I'm going to put my data table as the input. And I'm going to click on Add Headers because I also want to see the column names. And now let's hit Run and see if we will be able to successfully retrieve all the databases in my local connection. I didn't. I misspelled the extension. Let's run it again. As you can see, I got no errors. Now, if I'm going to go to the Project tab and hit Refresh, I have a new file here. Let's open it. And my database information is on the screen. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like to get tips and tricks and stay in touch with the latest automation scenarios, please hit the subscribe button down below.